can claim them all. Okay, guys, we obviously no time to play around here. Um, obviously pleased with the outcome of the game. Man, just very thankful for the atmosphere. Ben Hill Griffin, the Swamp, man, Steve Spurrier Field, just really special. I thought Saturday, 12 noon kick, 65 degrees, sunshine, and just senior day. So very thankful for our fans coming out and doing their part. I thought they made a significant impact on the game. And again, it was complimentary ball. We had a lot of comments about the game afterwards. So, we have no time to play around here because we're turning the page. Started the process yesterday in preparation for Florida State in a rivalry game, which we all know the magnitude of the game. We have a healthy respect for the personnel. We're very familiar with the personnel. And certainly the success they've had as of late. Had a heck of a year last year. And regardless of record and regardless of outcomes, this game is always a very significant one. So I think it's really, really important for our players to be able to hit the reset button in here and within the walls execute our routine and prepare the way we have been preparing, and I think we need to continue to improve. So, obviously, we have a ton of respect for Coach Norvell and his history and the makeup of that staff. So, this is going to be a challenge. You got to go to play at their place. We've been there before. They've beaten us the last 2 years, and we know the records will be thrown out. So, put the ball down. 7 o'clock up there, and we got to get ready to go. What questions do we have here?
You kind of alluded to your open statement, but this is the first time you guys have been favored in, I think it's Mississippi State. So another test for competitive maturity, or how important is going to be the approach this week on holiday week?
I think we've been pretty good at ignoring the noise and having the right combination of humility and enthusiasm, right? So obviously when you're going through struggle and you've had some setbacks, to be able to maintain your enthusiasm is really important. But okay, you experience some success. Can you handle that? Can you ignore maybe the hype? Can you have the right mix of humility with that? And I think that's the key. So we have a pretty big number of players that have been on the grass and on the sideline when these guys have beaten us the last 2 years. So that will contribute. But I think you're spot on. Do we have enough maturity to get ready to play again? And I think that is physical, it's mental, and it's emotional because it requires a lot of every person. So. I've challenged every part of our team, and I think that's the key. It's going to be about point of attack wins across the board. So we have to prepare for those individual matchups.
Did you see that at all last week? After a big win over LSU, an emotional win, rivalry, to kind of, hey, how do we handle success and still go about our work before Ole Miss comes in?
Yeah, I think every week's a little bit different in terms of what are the buttons you push, what motivates the players. I think that's where you got to have good leadership at the player level, where there's collaboration. Like I always ask some of our key guys, like, where are we at, and they know, they're the ones that they know more than I know or our staff knows. So, I think that's going to be the key. Because you do have to work your way through your punch list and do each day as if it's the most important game of the year. And I would say that it is the most important game of the year, not just because it's the next one, but I do think there's a ton at stake here. I think we have to realize all that comes with this game, big picture-wise. And I think our players they'll have a pulse on where we're at, and then we'll adjust the sails each day of the week as we try to build momentum towards kicking it off up there.
If it seemed like for a while, if things could go wrong, they were for you guys. And the last couple of weeks, things have gone your way in some respects. I mean, like if you look at statistically, the LSU game, Ole Miss, dropping some passes, let's say, some things they didn't execute maybe as well as they had been. How do you kind of temper the excitement and the momentum a little bit of the team by pointing out these kinds of, hey, by the way, do you know what I'm saying? And like emphasizing, like, don't get too ahead of yourselves here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I've stood up here and said this many times. You have to have a very objective a way to sum up the game, evaluate the game. What contributed to winning? What did we overcome? Because we were strong in these areas, we overcame these things. I think that the LSU game is an indicator, okay, hey, time of possession and play count was out of whack because of the third down issues on defense. But because we did play well in the red zone and we were very explosive on offense, we overcame it. So this past game was all about red zone scoring and turnover margin, right? Those were the two significant stats in the game. So learning how to win is having a comprehensive understanding of what contributes to winning football, And I think that the math problem may be a little different each week, and it's always a combination of these factors that we talk about every day. So, sometimes you may have some issues in one area, but you overcome it because you're really strong in another area. So how all those contribute to playing winning football, I think is key. And that's ultimately, if a guy's in your program for a number of years, he starts to develop an understanding of why those things are so important.
Do you like seeing your players have fun and maybe a little swagger, whether it's the dunk in the basket? That was a big deal made of that. Yeah. Do you enjoy them kind of enjoying themselves? Yeah,
those things come with winning, and I think that, there's nothing that makes me happier, So, I mean, what I want for them is to realize the result is not necessarily, we celebrate it, but I want you to realize why you got the result that you did. I think so. Look, we got another game to play, okay? So, I mean, I don't want to spend all day talking about what's happened in the past here. We play Florida State Saturday night, and that's the most important thing right now.
You bring anyone in to talk about the rivalry this week? Or
we've already done that, yeah.
You talked about playing up to expectations so far based on what you saw earlier, but are there areas of this team that have maybe exceeded what you thought or made improvements from what they looked like in August that you can pinpoint?
Well, I mean, I would say that we've managed the injuries as of late pretty well. I think the secondary, again, for another week, I thought, given the dynamic, played pretty well in the game. Stayed on top of the routes outside of a couple plays in the first half, and really made some really good plays in the game, and covered a good group of skill players. The quarterback, I think DJ obviously surpassed my expectations for a rookie. Graham Mertz deserves a lot of credit for that, and Ryan O'Hara, who is an absolutely phenomenal coach and teacher. His contribution and the way he goes above and beyond. And DJ's been blessed. I mean, he's got a ton of physical ability, but he's also been in the grinder with Ryan and Graham and has made a bunch of progress as a result of a lot of hard work.
my Graham was in on a couple of, the tackles on the fourth down stops, and he's made some plays on and off the last month. Could you just talk about his patience and how he's kind of waited his turn and what he's doing now?
Well, waited his turn. I mean, I'd say he got a chance to play pretty early. He's a rookie, but I get what you're saying. Miles Graham has a bright future in front of him, and I think, just like you're saying, I think your point I would agree with is like I watched the game from the sidelines. And oftentimes I catch myself going, man, who was that? And it was Miles. I think his football intelligence, I think growing up in a football family, and then his running back background. I think he has good instincts, vision, understanding for the game. And he's a 3-down backer. He can play on all 3 downs. He's one of our best special teams players. Miles has impressed me with how bright he is and how he retains information. Obviously missed a big portion of spring having the surgery, so I think he's getting into a rhythm now. I think he's going to have a good career here.
Billy, I asked you about strength and condition earlier in the year, and just how you felt like the new program was coming along. And you said it was great, but you got to finish now. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like these last 2 results, especially the way that you guys have played in the fourth quarter, is kind of what you were hoping for?
Yeah, I don't like how we played at Texas. I think we played outside of that. We've played the way we need to play. And look, that's got to become who we are. I think ultimately, and look, in a perfect world, we have many more games left, and I think that's one of the reminders to the team here is like back up a little bit and think big picture. If we would have handled our business at some point, physically and mentally and emotionally, there would be many more games to play here to get to where we want to go, right? So I think painting that picture for them and emphasizing how critical it is to have a routine, to have some self-discipline, and the work that we do downstairs with Coach Miles and Coach Sankel and their staffs pay off, right? And I think our players are pretty vocal. They feel like that has made a difference in their performance. So we need that to become part of our DNA. Like we're blue collar. We go down there and we work and we prepare. So they're down there working right now. So we need to continue. That needs to be a part of who we are.
What you can show us about Aaron Gates, just where he's at?
Yeah, we'll have an injury report Wednesday evening, but obviously couldn't return to the game, wasn't able to return. So Wednesday night we'll be able to get that to you.
You mentioned Coach O'Hara. Now that you have some time to reflect on just how the season has gone, how beneficial do you think it was, the NCAA change, to allow off-the-field assistants to be able to communicate during games and work in practice?
Yeah, I think it's big. I mean, and look, the guy's been working for me for a while and just continues to evolve. I think that's the thing I respect is like he never rests on his laurels. He's always looking for a little better way, another layer of detail. He's creative. He continues to push the envelope, and we grind the quarterback. Okay, so. And, Ryan deals with me, right? So he has to – I respect the way he handles that. And obviously every time I challenge something or try to add more detail to an area, he steps up and does it. So and I would say that's another – in a perfect world, all elite football programs, the quarterback sets the tone, So at all levels, in my opinion. So the importance of that position, not only with how they perform, but how they rub off on the other players on the team and how they set kind of a bar on this is how we work, this is how we prepare, this is how we communicate, this is how we practice. I think it's key the quarterback's got to set the tone.
It's going to be two freshman quarterbacks. Croman Hoke is starting for FSU. He's kind of a big mobile guy. I guess the importance of kind of keeping him in the pocket.
Yeah, very talented. We worked him out here. I was very impressed with him. We offered him a scholarship. Really sharp. Actually was a dual threat guy in high school. Played safety. very physical, was a good tackler. I mean, he's one of the more highly regarded quarterbacks in the country. I mean, now he's getting his chance. And from what I see, he played really well last week. And when he's been given good opportunities, he can play.
Coach, you mentioned, changing the way you guys practice throughout the year and how that's worked for you. Is there something week to week that you use as a barometer to make sure that's still kind of going the way that you wanted, things that you want to see on a daily basis that kind of dictates, okay, this is really the way we want to continue to work?
Yeah, we're in Tier 3 now, so we take one of our scout periods and move it into a walkthrough format. And then we individualize all of our work capacity, all of our player loads. So it's daily adjustment, based off the individual player. And I think Tyler and the sports science staff working with the training room, all of that is coordinated daily. And then we have a number of metrics that we use to gauge where a guy's at, right, in terms of trying to ramp him back up so that he peaks at the right time. So, I mean, I don't even know the name of some of these things we got downstairs, but we have tons of ways to kind of give the player feedback, like, hey, you're in a good place, or hey, there is some asymmetry. There is, it's we are extremely grateful for the things that we have access to and the smart people that we have leading those areas. I think that's a big piece of the puzzle.
Still doing the competitive piece as well?
Oh, yeah, that's not going anywhere, I can promise you.
Two freshmen starting in a game like this, pretty unique, right?
Yeah, I think so. And probably we'll be playing against each other for a while here, so I think there is, I think I'm kind of beyond DJ being a freshman anymore. Heck, yeah.
Billy, you guys have played against a stretch of really good quarterbacks here, and he doing it with Dijon Johnson in there. Just how has he handled this stretch with, getting pushed in there?
Yeah, DD and Triquez. I mean, just the secondary as a whole. I mean, Bryce Thornton probably had the best game of his career, 2 picks, 15 tackles. Jordan continues to impress and is just kind of the leader, communicator back there. I think DD has impressed me with his toughness. DD is playing through injury. He's in there every day in the training room working his way through it, stepped up in a major way. All those guys still play special team snaps on top of the defensive snaps. So, yeah, DD's really grown up in my eyes. He's matured. I have a ton of respect for DD just in terms of where he was at when I first met him to who he is as a young man today. He's grown quite a bit. So, and don't underestimate Triquez Bridges, the position flexibility. What an incredible finish to his career. His scouts are very high on him here the last couple of weeks.
I give back to the freshmen, though, given that high school recruiting is still extremely important. I know that's how you want to kind of build this program. Is it as important as 5 years ago, especially with the transfer restrictions the way they are now, or lack of? And how does that change your strategy and maybe even certain positions? Are there certain positions you're better in you've been great with receivers, for example, in the portal versus high school? You follow me, right?
Yeah, I think at some point you would hope that you stabilize and you kind of have them stacked, and there's you kind of see some strategy within each position relative to how you layer each position. But, there's a lack of patience, there'll be a bunch of attrition, so you map out your high school class, you never reach on an evaluation, and then you do your best to fill the class that way. And then you prepare. If you struck out, then you got to go portal. And then, obviously, if you have attrition with players you didn't anticipate, then you got to plug and play. So, 85 scholarship players, 20 walk-ons, and then 4 opportunities to add players to the team. And you just you put the best 85 player piece puzzle together as you can, you know.
Is there positions that, are there positions maybe that you'd be more apt to portal than
I think
recruit?
some are easier to play than others. You know, being mid-year is a big deal, but like, you know, the ones that have a ton of learning to do, you know, tight end, quarterback, interior offensive line, inside linebacker, safety, where, you know, they are the communicators. They are the guys that are processing a lot of information. Those are the ones you, in a perfect world, you'd have around for a while, you know. And then, you know, it's easier to play defensive line, edge, corner, receiver, running back, tackle, you know, specialists. You know, those are a little bit more plug and play, I'd say, in my opinion. But either way, it's not necessarily about that. It's just about we need a certain number at each spot, and we do the best we can to fill those roles.
Now that you are bowl eligible, I mean, how do you feel about getting the extra practices in December now and how they can go into the
Yeah.
fourth year and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, don't get me wrong, everybody throws out this big, hey, you get 15 more practices. I mean, we will not practice 15 more times, I can promise you that. But, yeah, I mean, I think we're not to that place where, you know, we just have access to the players a lot more than we used to in the old days. I mean, all spring, all summer, you can be on the field. It's a little bit more of a reward for the players. It's another opportunity to create momentum for the program. A lot of our red shirt players that will be able to play in the game, which will be big. And then just in general, you try to pair the workload. You know, I mean, these guys have been grinding, you know. It's not like it used to be where, you know, I just think we will build a schedule that will be about getting healthy, lifting weights, getting bigger, stronger, working on fundamentals. I just don't think 15 practices. Like if I told our guys we're going to practice 15 times for one game, that wouldn't go over well, right? So we'll have a good plan and try to peak at the right time, but you know, the practice environment will be more about just kind of trying to peak for the game, you know.
Football year to year now, and with Portland and all that, but given where FSU is and with Norvell and your respect for him, how surprised are you at just how the roof is caved in there, really?
Yeah, I mean, I have my own grass to mow, you know. I mean, my yard's big, and it has got a lot of weeds in it, and, you know, I got my own issues, so, you know, I don't necessarily think it would be right for me to comment on that because, look, I understand all the things that come with the job, so job's probably more challenging than it's ever been, you know, so I have a ton of respect for Mike, you know. I mean, he's a good football coach, you know, and I think we're trying to get the Florida Gators better. You know, that's my focus.
How did Bryce do stepping in for Damian, and just how's he done with the opportunities that he's gotten throughout the year at left guard?
Yeah, he's done good. I think Bryce is an athlete. You know, I think he's smart. He is tough. I think Bryce is still a young player. Bryce has position flexibility. He probably could play all five. He could play left tackle, both guards, right tackle, center. You know, Bryce is a guy who developed late. He's kind of a late bloomer, and I think he's a good off-season away from being a heck of a football player. You know, he's still very young, and I think at that position, you know, the nutrition, the strength, the conditioning, the weight room. We have a lot of players on our team that fit into that category. They need to you know, this coming off season will be a big piece of the puzzle for guys like Bryce Lovett, and there's a long list of guys that fit into that category.
Off-topic question, but game day got you to try and hit the crossbar on Saturday. How did they convince you to do that? How close were you to hitting it?
Well, when somebody says they're going to donate $1 million to hurricane relief, you know, I started taking my jacket off at that point, right? So, but I don't think I've thrown a football in 6 months. I mean, that was, and I'm still sore from one throw. But, no, we nearly pulled it off. But, yeah, I mean, I think you got to take them up on that offer.
They wanted to give you a second try. Would you?
Yeah.
With another shot?
I've had so many people comment on that, so I'm going to leave it as it is.
What was it? I didn't say it. What was the challenge?
To throw the ball and hit the crow. So I was doing the game day, and I had the ball in my hand, like one of the managers had thrown it to me, and I was throwing it around, and they were like, man, never seen the coach with, throwing the ball around pregame. They're like, hey, and then obviously they challenged me to throw it and hit the crossbar, and they said, and then here comes $1 million, so we gave it our best shot.
Throw?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hitting that?
We got a bunch of guys on our team. These guys are doing it post-practice. They do it all the time, so I should have been practicing more.
It goes into recruiting, relationship building, but how much can the outcome of Florida State just in your backyard help or hurt recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we got to make sure we understand here is the significance of the game, and the impact of the rivalry, not only for our program and our players and the people within these walls, but all the Gators out there that have had to deal with things for the last 2 years. So we get it, and I think the key is that we focus on today, and we have to, we've used different themes, right? 1-day contract, earn the right to win. We'll have our way to get them ready to go this week.
SEC going to 85 and only 20 walk-ons, that's not how you wanted to build your roster here. How much does that change the way you guys do recruiting? And then how can, I guess, NIL help make those last 20 spots really competitive?
Yeah, I think it's there'll be an evolution of the game there, in terms of practice format, and then obviously strategy behind how you implement those 20 spots, right, and who gets those spots and how competitive that will be. That's my concern, because if we don't define these things and make it very clear-cut, it'll be manipulated. If there's loopholes, as I say about the players, if there's wiggle room, they're going to wiggle, So in this conference, if there's wiggle room, they're going to wiggle too. So I think we need clarity about what does that look like, and when do we have to declare the 105? Can we carry more than 105 in the offseason? Is it, can they participate in revenue sharing, right? I mean, there's a number of things that need to be cleared up here so that we can develop a strategy, right? And I've been hammering that home, and we'll continue to do that.